Hey everybody, welcome back to Late August Sessions. Today I have one of the best in the business. We can use all the superlatives, esteemed, one of my most favorite. Let's go, iconic.
Yes, I like that one.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I'll be your favorite. That's good too, though. I'll take that. Too.
We're writers though, so we can write our own. We can write our own cool stories.
Yep.
Yeah. But we've got Adam Hood in the studio today. Thank you so much for being here.
Man, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, man.
I have been looking forward to this for a number of different reasons because this is new. This is something we're just now trying to get started. And you were one of the first people that I had in mind, and whenever we were talking about getting this going,
thank you.
Was you specifically because. Quite frankly, you give great interviews.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
You do. You're fun to watch.
Because I'm talkative.
You are talkative. That's what I needed. I needed people that could get on here and
run their mouth.
In a mouth from the south, from Opelika, Alabama. 25 minutes from the Georgia state line. Not a lick of music did you inherit from your family?
Nowhere. Nobody.
Yeah, nothing.
Mm-mm.
Just started playing at 12 and going into the 7th grade. And you didn't start singing until later because that took courage.
You've done your homework.
I did a little bit.
Attaboy.
I did a little bit. A little bit, as much as I can do. I wasn't good at homework. But no, you didn't start singing initially.
No, I didn't. So, I mean, I started in church like everybody else from the South does. You know what I mean? And so I had this guy. His name was Troy Amster. I'll throw him a nod because I still talk to Troy a lot. And he was the intern for the youth group. He went to school at Auburn University. So Opelika is right next to Auburn. So I grew up in a college town. And so, but the church. They had Troy, and Troy would sing and play, and I would always go to Troy's house and play his guitar because he had one of those black Takaminis. Remember those, the old school black Takaminis, like the Steve Wariner ones and stuff?
Absolutely.
That was the one.
I learned on a Takamine.
Me too.
I learned on a lawsuit Takamine.
Did you really?
Yes.
Ooh, see, that was when they were making really solid guitars.
On an old EL 349.
Oh, did they get sued?
Oh yeah, they got sued.
Who sued them?
Well, Martin.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because the Takamine looked like the Martin logo, and they were building them just like Martin's.
Oh, when it was on the headstock, the top of the headstock. Dang, boy, look at you go.
That's right? Fact check me?
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember those. It was like the 70-ish models. I remember seeing them.
And up through the early 80s. I've got the one that my dad had. Which was an 80 or 81. Got sidetracked.
You still got yours?
I still
really?
have it. It hangs by my bed. It was the guitar my dad taught me how to play guitar on.
That's pretty awesome.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about yours.
Anyway, so
talking about you, talking about the Takamine.
Okay, so and I would go over to Troy's house and play his guitar because he had that Takamine, and so that we would play on Wednesdays together, and Troy would sing and I would just play guitar, and then when Troy graduated from high school. Somebody had to sing, and so I did it, and I very reluctantly did it at first, and I'll never forget it, man. The first time it was like some kind of a youth rally or something, and I remember I started singing, and I saw everybody's face just kind of stop, and then I could tell it was like, okay, Adam's singing, and then we all went on with our lives, you know what I mean? It was an interesting moment.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I kind of did it backwards. I would sing songs in my room, and then I just started playing guitar because I felt weird just sitting there singing to myself. So I kind of learned guitar reluctantly, and it shows in my playing now.
No, come on now.
But I do know this is a cool, I guess, turning point in your life or whatever. You and I are within the same age demographic.
Right.
We're not that far apart. I had asked you about a particular show or concert experience or artist that changed your life or had a big impact on yours, and your answer was one of the same tours that was one of those moments for me. So tell us about that, because when I got your answer for this question, I was like, I still have my stub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Black and White tour. Yep. Clint Black. And That was back when the cassettes were still a deal, and you could open up the cassette and you could look at the liner notes and you could see who wrote the song. And I mean, the cool thing was about Clint Black was you could see it was every song, Black Nicholas, Black Nicholas, Black Nicholas. Him and Hayden Nicholas wrote all those songs, and so I was enamored with that whole thing. And you know, that was kind of the class of '91 was sort of.
Was it 89 or 91? 90, I said 89 earlier. It might be 91.
Yeah, it's like their first three.
Those guys.
Yeah, those guys. And so, and not many people came to Auburn, but that show came to Auburn, and that was the first show I saw, man. It changed everything for me. I went out and bought me a black cowboy hat and everything.
What else?
And
so what kind of boots?
I bought some black sharkskin boots. Shark, boy.
Sharkskin. That's some tough stuff, man. That's like
They wore like sharkskin boots too, man. They were
got some blisters.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember that tour, and I still have that. And we've been fortunate enough we did a run of shows a couple years ago with Clint Black.
I saw that.
And I took a picture of that stub. I still have that stub.
Man, that's cool.
But I loved that. I was always a Clint Black guy. When everybody was going Garth, I was like Clint.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And like you said, him writing the majority.
Yeah.
Or at least being a name on it, and having become friends with him and Hayden now, and getting to be around those guys has been super cool. But to hear him tell the story about how he got Winona on is really cool, because I got to hear Winona's version of it too.
Interesting.
Whenever I got to play with her a couple years ago. But that's a different story.
Now I got to know. So what is it? Is it worth telling?
It is worth telling. And actually, Clint said yes to doing this show.
Oh, okay. So maybe we'll save it for that.
Well, I can say
or don't.
It was no. Because to hear Clint say it is he tells such a good story.
Yeah.
He basically grabbed her at an awards show and said, "I want you to hear this song. I want you to sing it with me. Come listen to it in this broom closet."
Oh wow.
So here's a young Clint Black grabbing a young Winona, and who is tiny, by the way. She's this tall.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yes, she's this tall.
You know, the funny thing is that I remember everybody talking about how short Clint Black was too, and I took a picture with him and with the same height. And
He's
I thought,
like our height.
Yeah.
Because I met him too, and I was like, "You're the same short as me." You know,
we're shorts.
But to hear him tell a story about him grabbing her and going in the closet to record a bad goodbye, not in the closet obviously, to listen to it. But that was I love that. So
Wow.
Seeing that tour, and that was 1993. That was a big one for me as well. And that black cowboy hat and those sharkskin boots. Boots turned into you picking up a guitar and. I wasn't going to read all these, and these aren't even all of them. This is just such an impressive list of people that have sung your songs, and I don't even know how many of your own albums you have. You have a lot of your own albums and EPs, but this is just people that have sang your songs. And most of these people I've either been billed with, played with, or written with. There's only maybe one or two on here that I haven't done one of those things. Eli Young Band, Josh Abbott, Wade Bowen, Midnight River Choir, Stoney LaRue, Mike Ryan, Whiskey Myers, Jason Eady. We'll talk more about Jason.
Yeah.
Josh Grider, Jamie Lynn Wilson, Larry Hooper. I love Larry.
Yeah, Hooper.
Courtney Patton, Zach Walther, Randy Rogers, Blackberry Smoke, Austin Alsop, Brent Cobb, Aaron Ratier, Kid Rock, the Oak Ridge Boys. That's just fun to say Kid Rock and the Oak Ridge Boys.
Right, the same sentence.
In the same sentence.
Right, I know.
Travis Tritt, one of my all-time favorites. Miranda Lambert, and Will Hope. That's not even, anyway, there's a lot more. You have developed, man, you're the consummate songwriter. You put your own records out, and you have all of these amazing artists singing your songs as well. You really are one of the best in the business. And I'm not saying that's my opinion. That's just, it is. For guys like me, and this is, I was telling you before this really is if you want to nerd out about songwriting, this is what it's all about, man. My thing first and foremost is when I'm gone, I want people to go, no matter what. Oh, they put on a good show. Okay, right. He was a nice guy. Okay, like when I'm gone, it's like I want somebody to go, that dude could write a song.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I do.
I mean, and so to be, you know, to write with you, to write with our mutual friends, to write with the people that I consider the best of the best in this business, people that I can proud to write with, people that I try to write with because they're better writers than me.
Yeah, yeah.
Essentially. You know, you've had a journey, man. Like, you've been out there a long time, and we were talking about my first sample size with you was from 2007. Back then, I was working in the bars in the north side of Fort Worth. Back 2003, 2004. You were one of the guys I started to get to know at the end of my tenure there. And
that was when we first started going to Texas. Like 2004 was when I put out the 6th Street EP.
Yes.
And that was what got us to Texas, basically. Yeah. So, yeah, that was, yeah. Our beginning in Texas was basically the end of your tenure at the White Elephant.
Yeah.
Boy, that was a fun place.
Yeah.
I've forgotten. I've had a lot of nights there I don't remember.
Me too.
You know, I bet.
I spent as much time as I spent behind the bar, sitting at the bar, or on the stage there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of nights that I can't remember as well. But that was really, that was that's when I got to know who Josh Grider was, Drew Kennedy, you know, like those songwriter-y, you know, type of guys.
Yeah.
And you were coming through there, and you spent so much time in Texas, I thought you lived there.
As people still do. Yeah, they do. They still think and rightfully so, you know. I don't know why we don't move. I kind of make the joke to everybody that every time we talk about moving, we have a baby, but that's not really true. I mean, we only have 2, so.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a part of me that knows that it's not an opposition to living in Texas or living in Nashville or anything like that. We just, you know, we kind of made our minds up to be closer to our family. You know, my wife is, you know, we live in Tuscaloosa area, and that's where she's from, and we just want to raise our kids closer to the taproot, you know, and it makes for a lot more traveling, you know, but if life is harder on me to be easier on my kids, then I feel like that's kind of what you ought to do as a dad, you know.
Yeah.
But there's I don't know. And as much as I say that, I ask myself all the time, why the hell don't you move to Texas? Why don't you? And I don't know. I don't know if it would be different if we did or if we didn't, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But thank you for saying all that. It's kind of cool to hear that list. It really is. I'm kind of in a place to where appreciate it is not really a great word, I don't guess, but like there's a reality to it that I'm proud of, you know, and I should be proud of it, you know. I mean, but when it's all happening in real time, I'm just in the room making up words like everybody else is. I mean, you know, I got my methods, but like my method isn't anything that like it's not reinventing the wheel or anything like that. I don't know. I mean, everybody that I've written with is somebody that I'm a fan of, you know what I mean? And so, I don't know, I like that process. I would rather write songs. That's more rewarding to me than it is to perform them. I like playing, it's fine, you know, and I know that I have an ability that's unique, and so I know I should do it. But at the same time, you know, I feel like I can better serve as a writer. And like I said, I'm finishing a song, man, there's just nothing better than that. It's just it's like a burden lifted almost, you know. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. Well, you know, you were talking about where you were from and then just writing the way you do and not moving to Texas. I think you're doing just fine with that Alabama, you know, that soulful honky tonk. I don't mean to call you a mutt, but, you know, the honky tonk word was big around my house because we spoke about this a little bit earlier. The Gulf Coast area where you're from, and then, you know, all the way to the northern part of Florida, all the way through Texas, that was your prime honky tonk real estate with, like, you know, Gary Stewart and folks like that. As different as you and I may sound, we both have like the honky tonk mentality in that I could put you in a country bar, a rock bar, a blues bar, or a biker bar, and you're going to be able to get through the night, and not only get through it, like, you're going to be fine. Yeah, you're going to be good.
Hopefully not get kicked out or get a beer thrown at you,
That is a honky tonker.
Yeah, man.
You know.
Likewise.
Yeah, and that's how we had to. That's how we cut our teeth. We had to be able to play for anybody, you know. And just so your sound. Getting back to that.
That's interesting.
You know, that's just one of the main questions I had was, you know, your sound, you know, being where you're from and your influences and getting into what grabbed you about that sound when you were young? Anybody in specific, or how'd that go?
Yeah, so I mean, when I was so you know, let's get back to that time period where it was Garth Brooks and Clint Black and Travis Tritt and those guys. So
yeah.
I was into that music the same way anybody else was, and then my mom brought home this album. It was John Hiatt's "Bring the Family." And so Bring the Family had that song thing called Love on it. And that was just when Bonnie Raitt had recorded that song. And I remember seeing that song on VH1 and thinking what a cool song it is. And then I heard the guy that wrote it, I heard his version of it. And that album is a pretty interesting kind of case studies. No, that's not a good word for it. But, you know, just, I don't know, there's a lot going on there. I think they recorded it really fast, and it was just a 4-piece. And like that song, there's a lot of time changes in it for a real simple kind of bluesy tune. And I just got enamored with it, number one. And number two, that was the first time I realized that you could write songs and make records, and that other people could record those songs off your album and make them famous. You know what I mean? And I said, that's what I want to do, you know? And so Hyatt was the reason. He helped me figure out what I want to do. Delbert McClinton was the guy that made me figure out how I wanted it to sound. And I don't know how it worked out that way, you know, but that's the thing, like Delbert's stuff, like, you know, he was friends with a lot of guys kind of from my area. Billy Earl McClellan was from Phoenix City, and I know he was buddies with Delbert. And Rock Kilo, he was buddies with Delbert. And like Bruce Chanel would kind of come through the area and stuff like that. Like all these guys that were sort of honky tonkers, really, but on a bluesier side of it. And that's what I gravitated towards. You know what I mean? But the cool thing was, like with Delbert, he would record the countryest country songs you've ever heard. You know what I mean? And like his, you know, guitar player had a big old cowboy hat. You know what I mean? And so it was country music, but it was also like this blue-eyed soul that somebody like me who was listening to Otis Redding in the 8th grade, it was this amalgamation of all of it. And I found that in Delbert, and I said, okay, if I'm going to shoot for something, let's shoot for that. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I don't know. It's just, it's what I've been able to kind of land. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that I can't accomplish, but I feel connected to that style.
Yeah, and I think what makes you so great at it is that you can really dive into whomever you're working with.
Yeah,
learning how someone co-writes, and you know, and people co-write in different ways. And one thing that I noticed about co-writing with you, when it's just me and you, it's different. When we wrote a song where there was 4 of us, and you fell out. You were very quiet, which isn't normally Adam Hood. Adam Hood, you know, not that, I mean, I'm not mean.
No, I know
talk
what you
too
mean.
much,
Yeah.
but like, you fell out. You were taking notes of the conversation,
right?
And the song was A Few More Ghosts,
Right.
and we wrote it with Brian Martin and Jake Worthington. But you were over there taking these notes, and all of a sudden you're just like, okay, hey guys, what you think about this? You know, and then we were off to the races,
Yeah,
and
man.
it was really funny. It's just a different style. How do you feel about you know? I know you're so good at it. I guess it comes natural, but the co-writing thing, was that something you had to wade into easy, or how's that process?
It's never been easy. You know what I mean? And that was like, I do that because of the fact that, to me, I don't ever come with good ideas. You know what I mean? And that's my opinion. You know, I write with people that have, like, Brent's a good example. He's one of those people that comes with a great first half. By writing with him and him having great first halves, I learned how to be a great second verse writer. You know what I mean? And just to be able to say, okay, and just to do like that. And it's easier when there's more than one other person in the room. When that's what I do. I could just sit there and be quiet and listen to conversation, and things just they come out of the air, you know. But yeah, and I just learned how to do that just because of the fact that you know, number one, that seems to be where everybody gets stuck. And number two, I just don't have, I don't feel like I have great ideas. My hooks aren't all that great, you know, and that's just not what I do well.
Yeah.
I don't start them very well. I can finish them.
That's man, I have the opposite problem now, because I used to just write all by myself, and then I got into co-writing, and then I was a very picky co-writer.
Interesting.
I had to become friends with somebody usually, so which was kind of the funny thing about you and I. We had known each other, kind of, you know, and then all of a sudden
Here I am at your house.
Came to my house
yeah,
one day.
COVID. Yeah.
It ended up working out. Typically don't write songs like that, you know.
Well, I don't normally do it this way.
But it worked, you know, and so, you know, your method, you know, that night you did come. That was Mercy,
right?
Which ended up being the title track. And really, I remember where I was whenever I called you. I was sitting on the beach when I called you and told you that was going to be the title track. But I remember sitting there. You had just quit drinking right around that time. And I had not. I still was drinking very much, but I remember sitting on the back porch, and you had that lick, the ding 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 ding, and you just said, "I don't know, man. I'm just thinking, strong liquor in an empty glass," you know. And then we were kind of off to the races. So you definitely started that one.
Thanks.
But
that's a first verse. You know what I mean? Like
right.
that. You know what I mean? It's, you know, I have lines. I have, you know, and it's especially writing with someone like you, or with, you know. Anytime I try to write with somebody that I know is making their own records, it's kind of, and Brent and I talk about this a lot, and I you know, I hate to talk more about Brent than anybody, but he's who I spend my time writing with, you know. We're
gonna have him on this. Yeah, we're gonna have him on.
Which I'm sure he'll be a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But you know, what was I saying? Oh shit, I can't remember what I was talking about.
I really can't.
know, me neither.
Well, let's just start with another question.
Drinking? No, it wasn't about drinking.
Yeah, no.
Oh, it was about the first verse.
Yeah.
No, not really. That wasn't my point.
No.
Proceed.
Well, best advice in songwriting you've ever been given.
Ooh.
And was it by a songwriter or something you read?
No, it was by Frank Liddell. And so Frank owns Carnival Publishing, and that was my first publishing company. And so I met Frank through Miranda. And he was the guy that produced Miranda's. He produced her first record, maybe, and then all the way to, I can't remember where it stopped. But like, I met Miranda at the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend year, so that was like second album, and she introduced me to Frank. I signed with Carnival and was there for 7 years, and that's kind of where I met Brent. And I remember Frank said, the guys that I love the most are the guys that just never quit. Because I want to quit a lot. You know, I get sick of it a lot. Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of no's in songwriting. And there's a lot of, why do you not hear this in songwriting? There's a lot of, I don't know this person in songwriting. There's a lot of, like you said, you know, you sit down with, I mean, you know, in the same way that you were talking about how it, you know, I came to the house and we sat and we, you know, and grace of God, we got along. That could have just as easily not gone that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
we've all had rights, I think, where it did go that way.
It took all the strength I've got to not walk out of the room sometimes.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
Those are the times. And so that meant a lot to me, just because it hit me right at the time where like my perseverance had really run thin. You know, and I mean, because that was the thing. Like I said, I was at Carnival for 7 years, and it was a really prolific time for me for about 5 of them. And then things started changing, and I got to this point to where I felt like that I don't know that I have anything to provide to country music anymore. Yeah. You know, and it got, I mean, I don't want to say it got frustrating. Yeah, I mean, but you know, everything's frustrating. Everybody has a job that they, you know, get frustrated with moments of it. But that got to the point to where I was like, I don't know that I can serve. I don't know what am I doing here? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. and he said that, and that was a real game changer for me. I needed to hear that. But it's something that's so simple, you know. I mean, keep doing it, brother. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of, I mean, it's just, it's a different way of just saying, like, keep on keeping on.
It is.
But at the right time and place for somebody to say that when you really need to hear it, man, that makes all the difference in the world, you know?
Would that be how you measure, I guess that's how you measure, let's just call it the success of your songwriting career, is just the fact that you have endured, you know, the longevity is there. I mean, you know, your songs are going to live forever.
Right.
You know, I mean, I guess maybe because that's kind of how I look at it, you know, and in my ups and downs as well, because in the last 10 years, there's been 2 times I came this close to just not doing this anymore.
Right.
You know, and have written songs about it, you know, and I can obviously I can hear a lot of that, you know, in your work, because I have a couple things highlighted here. Your growth as a writer from stuff like, you know, 22 Days Too Long, which is a great song.
Yeah,
that was the first song of yours that I was familiar with.
I still play it live, like that's still in my set all the time, you know?
To you know, Business with Jesus and Bad Days Better, and you know, I mean, golly, dude, Bills in Alabama.
yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a newer song that, you know, that song is so age appropriate for, you know, the troubadour. You know, I was like, man, I felt that one.
Cool.
The only difference is I live in Texas.
There you go. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because there's a part of me that worries about the geography alienating people. You know what I mean? And I don't want that to ever be the case. You know, I don't want anything that I do or say to alienate anyone from anything. You know, I mean, it's important to me. Yeah. However, that is, you know, I say it on stage, like, that's, boy, talk about a true song. I mean, you know, that's as true. It is just as hard to pay your bills in Alabama as a songwriter. Like, that song is just as true as I love my wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, it's tough, man. And you know, even now, like, I bet I don't play 10 shows a year in Alabama. I bet I don't play 5 shows a year in Alabama. And but that's all right. You know, sometimes it's, you know, it's self-preservation. Sometimes it's nice to just, I don't know. I mean, it's more important for me for the song to be out front than for me to be out front. You know what I mean? I feel like that I don't have to pretend as much. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's the honesty part of it. So, but yeah, I mean, and I want it to be something to where I can grow, because I kind of got tired of writing songs about being on the road. But then I'm always on the road, you know?
You write about what you know about.
Exactly.
You know, and that's, you know, that's obviously why I'm a fan of your music, because I relate to those, because those songs are, they're my life as well.
Yeah.
Is there just talking about the, you know, being work part of it.
Yeah.
You know, how much of it is have to versus fun now? Like, how much of it are you still writing for yourself now versus whenever you were writing for maybe a publishing company? Did you lose, you know, is that why on your personal records you have so many songs about the road, and maybe some crutches that you've had in your life because, you know, when you were doing the publishing thing, you were writing more for other artists? I mean, how do you separate that? Because one of my favorite things now is helping other people write. You've been doing that a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
You know.
But I've learned how to do it differently. You know what I mean? Like it used to be one of those things to where, like, I would come to a write. You know, there was a time period when I would come to a write. Well, and I can tell you this. You know, like, I want to say, like, my second year into Carnival, I lost my dad. You know, and that was hard. You know, it was hard because I'm an only child, and it just felt like things came apart. You know what I mean? And so, and my dad was 59. That's pretty young, you know. And so, and it was hard just to sort of be in a good mood. You know what I mean? And so because of that baggage, kind of, for lack of a better word, I just didn't prepare, you know. And I mean, dude, I had rights with, like, guys like John Party and, like, Eli Young, and I just kind of blew it, you know. And so that was a bit of a wake up call to sort of say, well, Adam, just show up on time and be prepared. But then showing up on time and being prepared with songs that were mine, sometimes that ain't always, not everybody wants to write an Adam Hood song. And so Brent and I kind of, I really, he's knew how to do this better than me. Like Brent, and I learned it a lot from him, just to do your homework. Like we were talking about earlier, like writing with you, especially with like Deceiver's Blues, like that's a song that I'd come up with the idea, but I'd come up with the idea diving into your stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And saying, okay, what is it that I can pull from Cody's stuff that I can translate into an idea that I can do? And it was, minor keys, which is a real cool thing that you do, that you probably don't even realize that you do, but like it's not, I don't write really anything in a minor key, and it was a lot of fun,
That song specifically, you took the line, we say something around my house that we always laugh about, and the game is always called I Win, kind of like in Big Daddy.
Yeah.
But in my house, like I'm the winner because like Dad wins.
Yeah.
And this game's called I Win, and you and I had a conversation, and for some reason that stuck out in your head, I think, or whatever it was, and maybe you can explain it a little better than I am. But the line in the song, "I never win at any game but mine."
That was man. I wrestled with that one for a while.
Yeah, I love that line.
Yeah.
Because I told you we recorded that song two different ways.
Yeah.
In one way, it sounds like the loser's winning, and one way it sounds like the winner's winning, depending on if you hear the acoustic version or the full band version. But that line itself even takes on a different feel in those two different.
Which is
verses.
So cool, man. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's I get that, but it's interesting how just different interpretations of the same song create this different picture of things.
Mm-hmm.
That's, man, you can't plan that stuff.
Mm-mm.
That's when everything gets spiritual and cosmic and stuff like that. And it's lightning in a bottle, man.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's your job. I don't know why did I do this? You know what I mean? Like there's parts of me and that's where I get that's the frustrating part of it. When you sit down and you go, man, this is really like I'm trying to make work out of lightning in a bottle,
Yeah.
and how to make that consistently and stuff. And that's overthinking it. That's dramatically overthinking it.
Sure.
But at the same time, it really is, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I could say those kind of things in plain English. It takes songs to do it,
Shut up and sing.
Yeah, there you go. It's the way that it's the way that I say I love my wife the best. It's the way that I say I love my kids the best. It's the way that I say I hate this the best. It's, and I try not to say that at all in many songs, but because that translates too, and I'd rather, especially nowadays, I got to the point where, like with Bills in Alabama, it's like, I say there's a whole lot of things I can bitch about, and there are, everybody can, but nobody wants to hear that crap, man. Put a smile on your face, man. You got up today, and there's a lot to be thankful for. So, and I have to tell myself that a lot.
Oh, me too.
So that's where it comes into the idea of like, that's where I'm writing for myself. That's why these songs are positive. They're not positive because I'm Yoda. I mean, they're positive because I just want to get through the day. And if I get through the day, if I got to go play this weekend, and I don't want to play this weekend, but I got to sing this song, might as well be this coming out of my mouth to put a little positive spin on it. I want my stuff to rub off on me.
That is so true, because whenever I think maybe I don't want to go out and play,
Yeah.
we do have the best job in the world.
It's the best job in the world.
So, I have, one of these questions I love asking songwriters is what's a song that's really tough for you to play or not, that you have to play because people want to hear it, versus throwing a whole bunch of stuff in there that you just want to play that, people are going to be standing there going, well, that's cool, but why isn't he playing, whatever. Yeah. Being grateful, and this I have to remind myself, to be grateful to be able to sing all of those songs every night, even the ones that I'm so freaking tired of singing, because I still have the best job in the world.
Totally.
and I'm still getting to sing my song to you, and so keeping that perspective as a songwriter, I think, as well,
Well, and I'm not so far removed from the days where they wanted to hear Hank Williams Jr. songs more than they wanted to hear Adam Hood songs. You know what I mean? So if they come and they want to hear the worst song I've ever written, I'm still winning. But yeah, I've got those. I got two of them. Bad Days Better is one that, like, I love playing that song, but there are moments when it's hard to play it with a shitty perspective.
Sure.
And then, back to my dad, like, I've got a song called He Did that one's tough sometimes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because, it's a tribute to my dad. And, I wrote it. It took 4 years to work up the nerve to write it. I wrote it with Shane Miner, and it came out real fast. And it was nice to co-write it with somebody else, to where it wasn't. I felt like that took a lot of pressure off. It didn't have to be just about my dad, but I could put my dad, parts of it in there, and he could put parts of it in with his dad. But there's lines in there that are tough to sing sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's when you know you're doing it the right way.
That's right.
I mean, it really is, because I can look at songs that, not any given record, but there's a few songs I can look at on our catalog and think, I had a very difficult time recording that song.
Yeah.
There's also songs that I haven't played live, probably never will play live.
Really?
For one reason or another. Do you have any like that, or?
Yeah, but I don't feel like that it's for any intentional reason. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I hate to say that, because, like, there's just sometimes there's songs that I don't know, they just don't translate live. You know what I mean? Like, there's songs that have been fun studio songs, but then they just exist on the record, and I don't know why that is,
It's weird, because sometimes you'll have a sleeper song which you'll record it and think, oh, it was a good song, and then it ends up being one that shines, or you'll have one you'll think, oh, this is going to be this is going to be huge, and
nobody hears it.
Nobody's like,
And then somebody comes in and they request it, and then, like, oh Lord, I don't even know what key that song's in anymore.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Well, then you get to that point to where you probably have people calling B-sides that you wrote, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't even know it.
Yeah, I know. What are you trying to do, stump me? What's your deal, man? Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, man, I've been doing this a long time. I got a lot of records out. And you yourself, just songs, sheer number of songs of your own that you've recorded, right. Much less other artists as well. I mean, it's well into the hundreds just recorded. Mm-hmm. I can't remember all that.
There's no way to remember.
There's no way. You can't.
Especially when someone else takes it. You know what I mean? I take that back. I remember a lot of them. I really do. But at the same time, it's also it's a strange thing, man. To have songs that other people have recorded. It's what I love the most. But it's also like, well, that's their song. Why do you want to hear me sing it? Just because I wrote it, that's their song. Yeah. But sometimes you want to hear that interpretation of it. Yeah. Sometimes, like, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. It's weird.
All right, I want to jump to a quote that I...
Oh, Lord. What did I say now?
I loved this coming out of a presidential election.
Okay.
And I don't get political at our shows. I really don't get political in my songs. I'm kind of old school like that.
Me too.
Exactly. So I love this quote from you. What I heard from you on politics, songs in a wider scope. Songs that I've always respected the opinion of were from people that wrote from, this is how it affects me, instead of telling you how it should affect you. Only a great songwriter can write from that perspective.
Yeah.
And I might catch some guff for that, but my wife says don't should on me.
Yeah.
And form your own opinion. But I loved that quote, and you can hear that in your writing, because it's not going one way or the other. It's just a songwriter saying, don't should on me.
Well, and I'm you know what? I'm not the expert on politics. You know, I'm not, you know, and not to downplay it, but like I'm not educated enough and haven't mastered the political system well enough to give anybody my opinion on anything like that. You know what I mean? I just, you know, I mean, but I can give you my opinion on, or not really my opinion, but I can paint a person's picture for them. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I can paint my picture and how it affects me. And that's the thing. I mean, I try to do that with everything, but man, it's, you know, we talked about it before. You just, I don't want to alienate people, you know, and I don't want my attitude towards anybody to alienate another person. I don't want to hurt anybody's. My intentions aren't to hurt anybody's feelings, you know. I mean, granted, I have plenty of things that I feel, you know, good about, you know. I mean, have plenty of things that I feel strongly about, you know. How about my relationship with God? You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff that like you really want to get uncomfortable, let's talk about Jesus. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And so if I really want to make somebody uncomfortable, politics ain't gonna be it, you know. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
fair enough.
You know, so you know that I just and again, like I said, it really is. I think it's from a place of ignorance and from a place of just where, you know, I'm not the authority on it.
I can't say this is because I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking just as a fan of your writing. You know, you write very much from the aspect of somebody that's like, I do not have all this shit figured out.
Amen.
And that's also a wise songwriter.
Yeah.
You know,
that's being real. You know what I mean? Like that, I feel like that's a self-awareness. And if there's one thing that I am, it's studied on what I'm not able to do. I feel like I have a strong sense of self-awareness because I try my best to keep myself in check. And if I'm out of check, I got a wife that'll help me stay in check. And if she misses something, I've got people. You know, I mean, this is what we're talking about. You know what I mean? It's the kind of thing to where like if I got left to center with it being anything, you would come to me and say, "Hey, man, this ain't you." You know what I mean? Like, and because if you saw me just you know buying the farm on just a whole different style of and a whole different attitude of my music, you'd say something to me because rightfully so. You know what I mean? So I mean I'm aware of what I can do, and I'd just rather stay in that lane.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I think that's why you're probably able to write with and for, you know, so many different people.
Yeah.
You know.
Thanks.
I think that also I think you have a great empathy for what you see. Obviously, you know, you're very observant, and I noted that earlier in how when we were writing in a larger group as opposed to just you and me, how you quieten down a little bit and one funny thing that stuck out, and I don't think I've ever discussed this with you, but it's going to be a favorite memory of mine. It's probably not going to be translated as well as I'd like for it to. But we were sitting on that porch in Nashville, working on a few more ghosts, and you were over there taking your notes, and me and Brian and Jake were sitting there talking, and we knew that we were getting pretty dark, very quick, or not dark, but getting real.
Yeah, yeah.
We're getting real.
Let's get real now.
Real quick. And we were talking about some different lines in that song, and if you listen to that song, it's pretty real.
Yeah.
And I said something along the lines of, you know, just like whenever you wake up one day and like you just hate yourself, you know what I'm saying? And you're just sitting there and you just go, no, I have no idea what that's like, or something like that, and
right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember being broke, you know. I remember being scared to death, you know. I mean, I know you do too, man. I mean, that's the thing. It's that, you know. I remember being too drunk to manage. I remember. You know what I mean? Like, and it's those places of fear, and those I remember those moments when like the things happened that defined who I am today. You know, and I feel like that's the stuff that keeps me in check. That keep myself in check that way.
Yeah.
Because I can remember those things vividly, and there's parts of my life I just don't ever want to go back to, man.
Yeah.
You know.
And and you can see it in your songwriting now versus where it used to be, and you can see the same thing with our journeys as different as they've been. Whenever you had just quit drinking, whenever you came to the house, during the COVID times, and when I made the decision to quit drinking and actually was getting into therapy, you were one of the guys that I called, because you were one of the first guys that spoke openly about what my therapist said, and you said it so matter of fact.
Yeah.
I was like, "But wait, what do you mean? Your therapist, this and that." So, being there and now being, where you were probably a few years ago, in turning the page of my career, you said, back then, I didn't have the band. I was drunk for so long. I didn't have the bandwidth to really do anything except for write songs and go out on the road and play them.
Right.
And that's all I did for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And my wife raised the kids, and I know that not all of our story is the same, but what I'm seeing now in your writing is the same stuff that I'm starting to write as well. That coming out, that turning of the page of it, that maturation as a writer. We can't write songs like we did when we were 27, 28, 30, 35 years old. We
can't live like that.
We die.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I just don't have the physical, mental, emotional ability to do it anymore. I mean, we lived in a house for a year, the first year we were married, and I don't remember it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I
know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. And it's weird to know, like, because Brittany will talk about things that happened or just bring up a holiday or a picture or something like that, and like I don't remember it. And you miss out on a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and you don't really realize what you're missing out on when you're there. And man, this was never my soapbox. You know what I mean? Like, it was never anything I wanted to preach to anybody. It was never anything that I wanted to say. Never, never, never. Because I'm still not, I haven't perfected sobriety. You know what I mean? Like, I still haven't, and granted, I don't drink anymore, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the maturity that you see, like, I don't know, somebody that's been 20 years sober. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still really awkward in public. I still get really sick and tired of about 1:30 in the morning having to sit around and listen to conversations with people that have been drinking all night. I still get tired of that stuff, But and I feel guilty for feeling that way. You know what I mean? That's what I mean when I say I haven't, mastered sobriety. Like, but at the same time, I just, at least I can enjoy life a little bit more, At least, and it's interesting because I see this every night. Like, I'm starting to see faces and remember names that I met back then when I was drinking, and I didn't know who they were. You know what I mean? But they're friends now. You know what I mean? And like, I have real relationships with these people. They come to shows. I have real relationships with, just with my wife and with my children and with my co-writers. And these are real relationships. And I mean, man, Jason Eady and I have solved the problems of the world drinking, and I don't remember none of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And but that's the cool thing. I mean, I'm 6.5 years into it now, and I remember our conversations, and I that's nice, man. I like that.
Jason cut a song that me and him and Courtney Patton wrote at my house a couple years ago. I just quit drinking hard liquor. I was still drinking beer, but I'd come off hard liquor. And we wrote a song called Mean Spirits. And Jason has since recorded that song.
It is such a good song.
Isn't that
it's such a good song.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's really great.
I'm really proud of that one. But hitting on him a minute, and I just got the 10-minute warning, and this is on the second one.
Fast.
I know it does, and I'm already going to tell you have to come back.
Yeah,
we'll write more songs.
Absolutely.
But speaking of Jason and I started playing together 20 years ago, and you know, I know he's a dear friend of yours, and I have several of your songs written down here, but Downturn.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hit on that one briefly, and then ask you a couple of questions, and then I'll let you go. But Downturn, that there are a few songs that I'm sitting here going, well, yeah, you know, not only have I lived that, my wife has lived that one with me, and she's familiar with that song. And not just where you were literally, but like where y'all were. Was that one of those nights y'all were solving all the problems?
Hotel room in El Paso. Yeah, I think that may have been the only time I've ever been to El Paso. I probably played that State Line Barbecue. Yeah. We played it twice maybe, and it was when we were doing the Southern Brothers thing. And Jason said we finished the song, and I know damn well we didn't. So, but anyway, so he came in. You know, we were sitting there, and he said, "I got this idea for the song." He played me the first verse, and it just blew my mind. And it was just that. I mean, it was like, you know, I heard that verse the same way you heard that verse the first time you heard it. And it was like, whoa. And so I took it home, and I really sat on that one for a long time. The beauty is, like, I didn't, like, know that was a hit. I just knew it was a special song. You know what I mean? And so I knew I really had to, and so, you know, I worked on the chorus, and, you know, running in circles beats the hell out of sinking in sand. I couldn't be more proud of that line. You know what I mean? Like, that's one that, like...
The circles I run in are cycles older than time.
Proud
like,
of that one. You know what I mean?
Man, yeah.
Yeah,
Here
right.
We go again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, but better to do that. Better to run in circles than to sink down where you can't run anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, that's a special song, and he's just, you know, Jason and I are friends because he can do that. Mm-hmm. Because that guy will say, "I got an idea for a song," and he goes blah blah blah, and it's like, holy moly, yeah, let me get my hands on that. You know what I mean? And but in as much as it's mind-blowing, it's also tangible. You know what I mean? Like you know, there's people that write songs and they say, "I got this idea for this song," and I'm like, "Well, I can't touch that, dude. Yeah. You know, I can't. You need to finish that one on your own because I can't help you with that one."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I run into the same thing.
But with Jason, he's one of those people that the opposite happens. Like, it's equally as mind-blowing as it is compelling to participate in it. Yeah. You know?
I'm going to have him on this show.
He's got an interesting perspective on things. You know, I ask him all kinds of questions he's got interesting business models and all kinds of stuff, and I found that, like, his way works great for him. And everything I've tried that he does fails miserably. Yeah.
He's his own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's a good one. You guys have been friends for a long time. All right. It's kind of one question, but it's kind of a three-parted one question. Okay. And this is easy. This is no brain busters here. Who's your favorite person to co-write with?
Ooh. Pat McLaughlin is one that I've written a lot of songs with, and I hesitate to say Pat because I haven't written with Pat in about a year or two, but he's probably been one of my favorites just because, like, he's quirky enough to let me say whatever comes out of my mouth. You know what I mean? But he's also brilliant enough to where, like, he's one of those people that, like, we're in the middle of a song and I'm like, what are we writing about? You know, but we get to the end and it's like, that's what we were writing about. Yeah. And I mean, the Tennessee Will, Way Too Long, Gonna Take a Woman. I mean, like, you know, I say sometimes that, like,
Tennessee Will, that's very clever.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, I had the first 4 lines of that song and I sent it to Pat. I, you know, walked in the room, gave it to Pat, and, like, we were off to the races, man. You know, and, like, that's kind of the deal. But yeah, Pat's one of my favorites to write with.
Who do you think? Who's the best out there right now at it, in your opinion?
I mean, Cobb is outer space, man.
I'm gonna have a hard time arguing with you on
right. That. I mean, he really is, and I think that, like, it kind of makes me sick. Yeah. I'm glad we're buddies because if we weren't friends, I'd be pissed.
I'm glad he's on our team. Yeah,
you know.
Okay,
I'd put it in the case.
He's a good one, and we're gonna have him on very, very soon, thankfully. Last question, man. You know, let's go living or dead. Who would you have loved to write with or who have written with?
Oh, man. Billy Joe Shaver.
Good one.
Right, because here's what I love about Billy Joe Shaver's stuff. He had such an eloquence of of hillbilly logic. You know what I mean? Like
it was the most elegant, rough around the edges thing.
Man.
Like
and he sang it the way he did, and it was quirky enough to just be as honest as it gets, man. You know, and like I really admire that. I admire somebody that sort of is so embedded in Southern colloquialisms, if you will, that like they don't even know what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, and he just got a ton of them. He just always had just everything. You could tell it was like all the shit your granny used to say. You know what I mean? Like, and he just it was that kind of stuff. And those are lost on me. You know, I have a few, but then I wish I remembered more of them. Yeah, because I heard them. You know.
He was a gem. We got to play with him several times over the years. I wrote a song called Birds. The song I have called Birds is about him. Yeah, what a treasure.
Guy was another one. I had an appointment with Guy like 2 weeks before he died. I just missed him. Yeah. And that would have been fun.
Yeah. So. Well, one of these days, you know, people are going to be talking about you like they talk
and
about.
You as well.
Yeah, well,
Cody Jinks.
I'm just going to be sitting there going, I was hanging out with Brent Cobb, and I was hanging out with Adam Hood, and I was hanging out with all these songwriters that were way better than me, and they just put up with me because they hoped I was maybe going to cut something.
I've heard some really masterful songwriters say that too. They're masters because they wound up in the right rooms with the right people.
You're damn right.
You're doing it right.
I can tell you the smartest thing about me is who I surround myself with. I promise you that. Adam Hood. Brother, thank you so much, man.
It's my pleasure, dude. Yeah. This has been fun.
Yeah, I was nervous. I was nervous about interviewing you, so to speak. I shouldn't have been.
Nah.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your friendship. Thank you for writing songs with me.
It's my pleasure.
Being a part of my journey in this this business, and we got a lot more to write, buddy.
I agree. So, I agree.
Guys. Cody Jinks, Late August Sessions, Adam Hood. You're just better off trying to look at people who haven't covered his songs as opposed to people who have, because there's a bunch of them out there. So once again, thank you, friend.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah, safe travels to you, and we will see you guys next time with another kick-ass songwriter guest on Late August Sessions.